Hi everybody, I'm Charlie. This is On Air, my Beatles collection. A couple of months ago in one of my videos here on the channel, I showed you a series of box sets that were called the Real Alternate. So, for example, the Real Alternate Magical Mystery Tour, the Real Alternate Rubber Soul, so on. And I have, I don't know, 6 or 8 of them. I don't know if there's actually one for every original album. I have the Red and the Blue album. I have Magical Mystery Tour. I even have the Beatles in Italy as one of them. And they're all very limited edition. And here's one I haven't shown you yet. And this is also a limited edition. This is number 173 of 300. This is not a Real Alternate series box, but it's similar. And it is the Beatles Get Back. And you can see the note about the limit. So this is 6 LPs. I've said this many times for those of you who are subscribers and have seen some of the videos I've done before. I usually don't fail to mention that I'm a sucker for box sets and I'm a sucker for color vinyl. And in this case, I get both. Anyway, this is billed as the Songtrack from the Get Back film as done by Peter Jackson. And I'll read you one of the notes on the back. It says, this unique 6 LP box features all the music from Peter Jackson's extended Get Back 2021 documentary. All songs and rehearsals from the 21 days spent at both Twickenham and Apple Studios, taped in January 1969, were remixed and remastered for this project. All 150 plus tracks are presented in the running order to the series. The rooftop concert is not included, unfortunately. And then it also says play loud. And it credits Gear and Fab Records. Copyright 2024. And so on the back, it shows you the contents of the LPs. And of course, that scene is from the rooftop, as is the front cover. This really beautifully done box. And we can open it up. I'll show you one of the things that comes out of here. Here's this card, which is not the size of the box. So it's, sorry, it's, I guess maybe 10 inches. Looks like the size of a 10-inch record. Anyway, it's just a single fold out. It's got the same back cover as the outer box does. And on the inside, it has the story of the making of the film and Peter Jackson's work. And then it also, again, shows the detail on the songs. In this case, it tells you whether they're Twickenham or whether they're Apple Studios. And it mentions the rooftop concert here, and it names the songs, but of course, it does not include those. This is the soundtrack list from everything heard in the video. And as I said, it does not include the rooftop. Anyway, there are 6 LPs. They are not only vinyl, but they are color vinyl. And I have my rubber gloves on. They are in plastic lined sleeves, paper outer. And that's the first one. Get Back, side A, side B. So it looks like there's only 2 colors. A little trouble slipping it back in there. And this is the second one. So it doesn't number the albums. It just gives them letters. So this is side C, side D. Now this is a little different than the other one. This is marbleized. It's still pinkish, but it's marbleized. So it's got some white and some gray in it. Excuse me. And then here comes sides E and F. And here we're going to go blue. It's not very translucent. You can't see my face through there. Side F. Again, it's not a solid color. It's kind of marbleized, and the blue is on the lighter side. And now we're going to go sides G and H. Yet another pinkish color. Doesn't look exactly the same as the other. And again, it's slightly marbleized. Next one is sides I and J. And this is a darker blue than the other one. As I said, they're all kind of variations on pink or blue, but this is a much darker blue than the other one I showed you. And last but not least is sides K and L. And this is very much translucent blue. It looks more translucent to me than it does in the video. I don't know if you can you see my hat? It says Beatles. This is much more translucent than the other one. So blue or pink, but they're all a little bit different and different shades of those colors. Not that that's a super critical, important thing. I like color vinyl. You know, there was a time when we would complain about color vinyl and picture disc for not having a very good sound necessarily. But, you know, in modern times, the color vinyl has all the audio attributes of black vinyl as far as I can tell. So let's just kind of go over this quickly. So the first LP, side A and side B, there's a lot of mixed stuff that didn't just show up on the Let It Be album. You know, there's stuff that wound up not making any album, and then there's other stuff that wound up on the White album, and some from the Abbey Road album. So, you know, they were still remembering some things that were recently recorded. They were working on some new stuff, and they were working on stuff that would ultimately not get finished until they did the Abbey Road album. So, you know, for example, and I might also mention there's solo stuff in here, you know, stuff that was worked on by whoever the artist, you know, whoever the author, whoever the originator was, and was trying to present it to the others. As you know from the film and from real life stories, George would often present his songs, and John was indifferent. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Paul was indifferent too. So there's a lot of stuff that George would put out there that would never get anywhere. So there's some of that on here, and then there's a little bit of some of that with John, where these songs surfaced much later in his solo career. So anyway, the first LP has Child of Nature. And of course, that became Jealous Guy much later, a couple of years later in John's solo career. But here he presents it, and it's the first thing you hear on side 1 of LP 1, followed by Don't Let Me Down, I've Got a Feeling. Then there's a little quick medley, Johnny Be Good, Quinn the Eskimo, and I Shall Be Released, the Dylan song, all mixed together. Then back to Johnny Be Good, then Don't Let Me Down, then Two of Us, and then T for Two, and then some talk. So some of the vocal, you know, the talk tracks are here. I won't go through all of them. I want to pick out the highlights. There's a run through of One After 909, and then from One After 909 it goes to Obla Di Obla Da. which, you know, you wouldn't ever expect to hear those two or say those two things in the same sentence. But anyway, that goes back to what I said earlier. Some of this stuff surfaced either solo later on or in a later album, or an earlier album, in this case, the White Album, Oblige Oblige. Let's see. I've Got a Feeling again, Don't Let Me Down, Give Me Some Truth. Again, didn't show up in John's solo career for, you know, a couple of albums into his career, but here it is, working on it. And right after that, All Things Must Pass. So this is the Beatles trying to do All Things Must Pass. And of course, that wound up being the title track for George's biggest, most popular album. And some think the best Beatles solo album of all time, arguably. Some people think that. Then side B of that first album has Every Little Thing, which you wouldn't expect to find the Beatles doing, you know, in 1969. Then I'm So Tired, but in this case sung by Paul. And then, let's see, another rehearsal for Don't Let Me Down. Another couple of takes of Two of Us with some commentary from George. And then there's Paul improvising with Ringo, where he kind of pulls Get Back out of the ozone. You might remember that as one of the most famous, memorable scenes in the Peter Jackson film Get Back, where we basically, you know, saw that song come from nowhere with Paul on bass and playing with Ringo, and you know, you hear it right from its birth, if you will. And then Maxwell's Silver Hammer, one of the songs that the other Beatles despised and hated working on. And they did, I can't remember how many takes on that, but here they are doing it at Twickenham. And let's see, then there's Across the Universe. And then there's a run of rock and roll music. So we're going way back there. And then in the next LP, LP2, side C, there's a run through of I Me Mine. And then back to Two of Us and Don't Let Me Down. And then Stand By Me, which of course turned up some 7 years later on John's rock and roll album. And also as a single, a pretty popular single. And then I Me Mine again, Another Day. There's Paul's, you know, one of Paul's early solo singles. But here it is on the Get Back Songtrack, excuse me. Then The Long and Winding Road. Then Golden Slumbers, Carry That Weight. And then here's one that surfaced recently, The Palace of the King of the Birds, instrumental. And that's on here in a couple of different places. For You Blue, Get Back. She Came In Through the Bathroom Window. So now we're dipping into Abbey Road territory. For You Blue, Susie Parker, House of the Rising Sun, and these are snippets, of course, you might remember. I'm kind of skipping through this. Across the Universe again, Let It Be, the song Let It Be, rehearsal there. Then a couple of takes of Get Back. And I've Got a Feeling, and Maxwell Silver Hammer again. And then we hear that George leaves the group. So you might, of course, remember that scene where George walked out and they had to go to his house and talk him into coming back. Anyway, now we're going to skip to LP3, side E, Isn't It a Pity? So the first thing they work on, and these are chronological, by the way. So the first thing they work on next after George quit is Isn't It a Pity? You know, you could think about what was on his mind when he was thinking about how we break each other's hearts, cause each other pain, when he wrote those lyrics. And here he is, you know, right after he quit the band. You know, he's back and he's trying to promote this song as a Beatles song. Of course, that didn't work out. It did wind up being the B-side of his biggest hit, My Sweet Lord. And of course, it's also in two versions of it on the All Things Must Pass album. And then we get The Palace of the King and the Birds again, and a jam wrapped around that, and then we get another take of Get Back, and then Baby I Don't Care / Martha My Dear. So Martha My Dear, so we're going backwards into the White Album again. Backseat of My Car, one of my favorite songs from Ram, and this is an early intro of that by Paul. And Help, wouldn't expect to hear that here. Me, Mr. Mustard. So now we're moving forward to Abbey Road again. Oh Darling, moving forward to Abbey Road again. And let's see, side F. Too Bad About Sorrows, going way back in time on that. Dig a Pony, Blue Suede Shoes, Good Rockin' Tonight, several takes of Dig a Pony, also a take of Shout. I really like how they did Shout. I don't recall exactly how they did it at this point in time. A lot of these things they were goofing around. These are not all listenable songs as much as they are listenable history. Where you can picture them as you did in the film, goofing around in the studio and having a little bit of fun. But in a lot of cases, these songs can't stand on their own as legitimate releases. Anyway, that's not the point of a box set like this. The point of the box set like this is to kind of, walk you through, from an audio point of view, walk you through the film and the time that they spent in January '69 in the studio. I've Got a Feeling, Don't Let Me Down, She Came In Through the Bathroom Window, Some Other Guy. That goes all the way back to the Cavern Club. Going Up the Country, the Canned Heat song. And then Dig a Pony / I've Got a Feeling. So that's just a quick little medley there. And then we go to the fourth LP, so side G. A couple more, I've Got a Feeling, another Don't Let Me Down. Save the Last Dance for Me, which was to be on the actual Let It Be album, and got cut, when Phil Spector took over the tapes and, took what was completed as a Get Back album and turned it into a Let It Be album. That's one of the songs he threw overboard, was Save the Last Dance for Me. Then Don't Let Me Down again, 20 Flight Rock. Paul did that for years on his tours. 20 Flight Rock, one of his favorites. Oh Darling, more Get Back. Child of Nature pops up again. And Stand By Me pops up again. Then side H, so the B side of LP4, has a couple more takes of Two of Us. Then Polythene Pam. Then Her Majesty. Then Teddy Boy. Then Maggie May and Fancy Me Chances. Dig It. Derridoon. You might remember in the anthology film when they were sitting out on the grass, the three living Beatles at the time. George started strumming along to Derridoon. For many of us, that was the first time we had heard that. I don't think that was in the Let It Be movie. It was in the Get Back movie, the Peter Jackson version. Let's see. And Within You, Without You, going way back. George going way back to Sgt. Pepper. Act Naturally, going back even further. Bye Bye Love. Two of Us. For You Blue. Going back now to the first song Paul ever wrote, I Lost My Little Girl. Mean Mr. Mustard, really jumping around here, and then Let It Be. LP 5, so side I, starts with a jam, and then the song called The Walk. Then Love Me Do, Octopus's Garden, Let It Be again, Dig It, Blue Suede Shoes. And then the other side of that LP 5, Long and Winding Road. And the first take is the one that Paul sings sort of in cha-cha mode. And then the next take is a serious one. And then Shake, Rattle, and Roll with Kansas City, Miss Ann, and Blue Suede Shoes. That's a little medley. Old Brown Shoe, Let It Be, Long and Winding Road, Oh Darling, Don't Let Me Down. And then a couple of takes of, one rehearsal of Get Back, and then an actual take of Get Back, and then I've Got a Feeling. And then we go to the last LP. Of course, these things are tightening up now, and by this point, they sound more like songs for the most part, and we get on side one of the last LP, Something, and then we get Love Me Do, I've Got a Feeling, Don't Let Me Down, I Want You, She's So Heavy, Half a Pound of Grease Paint, and then Dig It, I Had a Dream, Two of Us, and then it says the Rooftop Concert monitor mixes. I have to check that out because it said in the notes there was no rooftop concert stuff. And then the last side of LP 6 starts with Two of Us, and then a jam, and then Run for Your Life, and then Two of Us, The Long and Winding Road, Let It Be, and then bonus tracks from the Apple Studios the next day, Two of Us, and this is the 1992 stereo mix, and then Let It Be, the 1992 stereo mix, and then The Long and Winding Road, the 1992 stereo mix. So these are bonus tracks. So anyway, that is the content of the Beatles Get Back Songtrack. Again, it was a limited edition. It's a nice companion to the real alternate boxes that I mentioned. Those are typically on color vinyl. Some of those are color vinyl and CD and DVD. This is just color vinyl, but it's otherwise similar in structure to those other albums that I talked about. And it's a standard size box. Nothing super special about the art, but it's a nice look overall. And this did come out after the Peter Jackson film. It's copyright dated down here 2024, so I'm not exactly sure when it actually hit the streets. I've had it for a while now, and I thought I would show you today, and we could enjoy it a little bit together. And I'm going to listen to it thoroughly because I expect it to be a much higher quality sound than some of the other stuff that's become available. Anyway, over the years, there's been a lot of released, well, I shouldn't say released, bootlegged releases of Get Back Sessions material, and I have lots of them, and I'm curious to know how this shakes out sound-wise compared to those, because this is the Peter Jackson versions that were cleaned up for the purposes of the film. They weren't cleaned up for the purposes of this bootleg box, but they were cleaned up for the purposes of the video. So they sounded great on TV, but listening through a TV is not the same thing as listening through a quality home stereo system. So I'm going to do that, and I may come back and talk about this box some more, but for now I wanted to show you it. And if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button, and if you're not a subscriber yet, please hit that one as well and subscribe, and come back here and enjoy some of the other videos, and there'll be a lot more coming soon. So stay tuned, and thanks for stopping by.